Howdy, y'all. Welcome to another episode of CardBlitz. This week it is episode 23, and I'm joined by our good friend Patrick Marshall. Patrick, how's it going?
Good. How you guys doing?
Good, good, man. It's
Good.
we're in the mix with like the NBA playoffs and the NHL or the NBA finals, NHL final. Let's see. Yeah, all sorts of things going on, man. So,
Yeah, talk about the NHL final. Let's lead off there. That's pretty entertaining. The
dude,
first two games were decided. It was one goal difference. The second game in a second overtime by a 37-year-old player who was traded during the season, and just storylines for the NHL. I'm pretty happy to see that. But this last game that was last night, I think shows the true dominance of the Florida Panthers. They're pretty impressive. So
building quite a dynasty down south, aren't they?
they are. They are really. I don't. I'm not quite sure what they did to get to this point. I know there's parity. They want to make teams even when they come in the league, but I don't know. They've got the right coach. They've got the right. All these
Players.
players. All the players have bought in. So
Definitely, man. Well, we'll see if if the Oilers can make it a series, even things up, and see what happens from there, right?
yeah, game four is what is that Thursday, right? I think
I
so.
believe so. I
Yeah.
believe
Okay.
so. And then on the ABA side of things, it's a tied series. It's 1-1 heading into tomorrow night's game, Wednesday night.
Yeah, I think game two was kind of predictable. To be honest, I think OKC was going to show that there's a reason why they're one of the few teams in the NBA in the past 50 years that's averaged that many points per win during the regular season. They had an incredible year, being
That
like
that
64.
defense is pretty serious. So
Yeah, 64 and 18. There's a reason for that. So you could tell that they were going to come out and show something. I had a feeling about that. I think the Pacers definitely stole one in game one.
hey,
So
take it, man. And now they're heading back 1-1 on their own home court, and we'll see.
yeah,
What happens Wednesday night.
I think it's going to be a good game tomorrow night. That'll be one worth watching. I think all these playoff games are worth watching, but if you have time, I would dial
That
into
and
that.
then the prices of like SGA and Halliburton cards. I'm sure they're
Yeah.
just going out the roof right now.
Well, I saw. It's interesting you say. I saw a commercial, an NBA commercial that had LeBron James in it, and Halliburton was in it. And he's like kind of like showing him he's the protege, but he still can't shoot as well as LeBron. They're doing some shoot around, and I was like, that's pretty neat. The NBA is on top of it, so they know who their future stars are going to be.
Hmm.
So,
Passing the baton.
but both those guys, SGA and Halliburton, I think they're star players.
Oh,
So
definitely star
yeah,
players. The
pretty
question is,
awesome.
how high are those rare rookie cards going
Well,
for?
not that superstar, but
Demand.
yeah, you know what I'm saying. They're not. Are they elite? Right now they probably are, but as far as a collectible background, I don't know. We'll see in a few years how things look. So
Yeah, we'll have to define elite first, and then we'll have to define
correct.
collectible second, and then we'll have to define demand third, right? We'll have to figure this out
Yeah,
in the upcoming episode of Card Blitz.
that's
Well,
right.
hey man, let's get to this birthday thing because that's always something we celebrate.
Born on this day was one of the best quarterbacks in his time, in his era, Mr. Dan Fouts.
All right, 1980
Yeah,
tops, dude.
yeah, yep, 81. So this year he actually set the NFL season record at that time with 4,715 yards passing this season. And I think there's the unique thing with Dan Fouts is, he has a strong arm. Wasn't really highly recruited at Oregon. Came
Hmm.
into the NFL, and thanks to Don Coryell, the Air Coryell offense in the Chargers with the late 70s, dude, he became a superstar. So
Oh, definitely, man. With Charlie Joyner and John Jefferson.
yeah, you remember
You
those
know,
days? That's great. So
dude, yeah.
there's I think there's one. I'd be hard pressed to know if any modern age quarterback, the way they do, they're runners now. They're like they could do both parts of the game,
The
which
dual
Dan
threat.
Fouts. Yeah, Dan Fouts is not much of a runner, but he was an incredible thrower and passer. But he led the league, the NFL in passing yards for 4 years in a row. And lots of other players have done well, like Drew Brees, Peyton Manning, with yardage. But no one's ever won 4 years in a row like Dan Fouts did. Some of them did 3 years in a row. So that's going to
I
be
bet one of our viewers will fact check that, and they'll be in touch with us, right?
yeah. Well, I think if I'm not mistaken, Dan Marino did 3 years in a row. He exploded on the scene. And then it was like the same players, really good players. You had Breeze, then you had Manning one year, then Favre, and then Manning, and then Breeze, and then Breeze. But it was never four in a row, if I'm not mistaken. So that's pretty cool. That's gonna be a hard record to beat.
Hmm. Well, I was gonna say I busted out the 1976 edition of
Yeah,
Dan
I like
Fouts,
those.
and I really like the design. I think it's a classic design, and I like the little football there in the bottom right. And
Yeah,
this one is not in the best of condition. It's got like some surface creases. I'm thinking though of using this card though and sending it like through the mail for an autograph.
yeah, dude,
I
that's
think
awesome.
that'd be kind of cool, man. A graphed up Dan Fouts card. And if I do it, I'll let you guys know.
Well, Dan Fouts is 74 years old today, and he's pretty. I'm sure he's very much. He'd very much welcome something like that. I bet that'd be a great thing to do. I
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that.
I was gonna ask if do you remember a lot about him doing like the commentary on
Yeah,
like college games or pro games?
yeah. I thought he was pretty solid when he did it.
Definitely.
So I've like we talked. I thought he was still somewhat active in that, but I guess he's been retired for a few years now. So
I think he's limited. I think Chargers have relegated him to like just preseason games only.
gotcha.
So
Okay,
that's my understanding. But again,
that makes sense.
viewers will fact check us and let us
And
know.
then of course I got to. This is one of my favorite cards too.
78. My
78. Yeah, these are
that's my
pretty neat.
favorite
And just
set,
like
man.
yours, Kelly, I don't know if you can see it, but there's a corner down here that's kind of got a little,
Yeah,
a little too much love. So
well loved corners.
cool card though. I really like these. So I like these 70s football cards. There's
Oh,
nothing wrong with them at all.
classic, man.
Yeah,
Classic.
and early 80s. I like those too. So well, great. That's great. I like having birthday guests like this. This is awesome.
Yeah. Hey, so Dan Fouts, if you're watching or your friends tell you about this, you're welcome to come and talk cards with us anytime here at CardBlitz.
Absolutely. Yes.
Dan, you're always welcome, dude.
Throw us a couple passes. We're ready to catch them.
That's right. Make that diamond.
That's right.
Well, you got any show and tell action that you want to lead off with?
I do. And this was pretty cool. I was going through some cards last night and this morning. And guys, I mean, I'm sure there's some golfing fans out there, but this week is going to be the 125th U.S. Open Championship in golf. And so I thought it'd be fitting to show a Jack Nicklaus card that's been part of my collection. 91 upper deck. Jack Nicklaus is the only golfer to win the U.S. Open 4 times. So pretty cool. I mean, just obviously a legend, the Golden Bear himself.
And
So
that card came out in 91, you said?
yeah, 91. So
Dude, that's
pretty neat.
cool.
Yeah, and
I,
he won the U.S. Open in 62. I think that was 70, 67, 72, and 80. So yeah, I mean he spanned 18 years winning championship. I mean major championships until and then his last one I think was 1986, the Masters,
all right, four of
and
them.
that had covered like 30 something years. I mean that is those numbers are never going to be reached. I mean he's pretty special.
I was gonna ask on the that upper deck, is that like a golf set per se, or is that just an
Yeah,
insert? Or
this was
that's a new card for me, so I've
yeah
never.
this was. Do you remember the back in the day when the Tiger Woods rookies were coming out?
It does an oh
Yeah.
01.
Yeah, oh 01. This is oh 01.
Oh, okay.
I think it's so. Yeah, yeah, 2001. Well, what did I say? Did I say something else besides
91, man. So that's why I was
Oh no
like,
no no 2001. Sorry, not
okay,
91. There's a
yeah.
lot of stats floating around in my head all the time. So, no, this was the Upper Deck PGA,
Yeah.
the golf set. Yeah, that's exactly.
Other than the Tiger card, I don't know if those cards, how much, collectability and value, like
It's
if you're into golf, it would make sense, but
yeah.
everyone knows Tiger, but yeah, I mean, look, Nicholas, he's a legend in the sport as well. So most folks that follow sports should know him.
Yeah, I think I've got. I like the retro ones that when they came out, like for
Mhm.
this year. I mean, I think I've got Lee Trevino and Tom Watson. I've got guys like that I just kind of put my PC and they've been sitting in that box for like 30 years. So I'm like, oh wow, check
Hey,
this out.
scrolling through, you're like, oh, hey, how about this?
I go, this is great. This is show and tell. Let's do this. And it ties into the U.S. Open, which is starting on Thursday this week. So
Golf life.
yeah,
Well, dude, let me share with you. I completed a set with this card last weekend. Came in the mail, and I don't know if you
nice.
see it very well, but it's a 2001 Chrome, or it's a 2000, sorry, 2000 Chrome Derek Jeter card, the captain.
Okay.
So that completes the set for me of this baseball card set, 2000 Chrome.
2000 Chrome. Okay.
Yes, yeah.
Nice.
So nice and shiny. And then speaking of captains, my SGC order came back. Had a couple of cards in that, and I got another captain, Captain America.
Yeah, there you go. What's that one? I couldn't see the gray.
It's an SGC 7.
7? Nice.
So again, I'm working on the 7. So I've got the 79, 78, 77, and 76 run done. I still need to get 75, 74, 73, 72 in an SGC 7 to complete that player run.
Oh, I got you. Okay. That's right.
And
That's
then
great.
the other card that came back, and I got that from our buddy Wendell, the Cowboys
Oh
card.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Submitted it straight over to SGC and got a 7. But this one, man, this one came back and it's a beaut.
Nice.
It's an 8.5.
Nice.
It's a Wonder Bread Star Wars card from back in 77.
How's your collection of graded cards doing in that set?
For the Star Wars, I'm working on it, man. I'm still
Okay.
about 5 shy, but slowly, submitting them, vetting them, making sure that they look good. And I'm trying to get them all 7s and better as well because they're from the 70s.
Yeah.
Part
Yeah.
part of part of our youth, man.
Good.
And then, as I say, speaking of this episode, man, it's a big one, right? Number 23.
That's right. That's right. Number 23. And who would be the number 23 that we would
Who is
hold?
synonymous with 23?
Yeah,
The
that's
weirdest,
correct.
right?
Jumpman himself.
Exactly,
Yeah,
exactly. Uh, be like Mike, right?
that's right. Be like Mike. That's right. Michael Jordan.
Yep.
Now, I have one card. I have one more that I was gonna show. It's not Michael Jordan, but going through my cards, Kelly, I'm telling you, every time we do this and we do show and tell, I find things that I'm like, I didn't even know I had that card. You
Part
stumble
of the
across.
joy, right?
That's right. But I've got a BGS 8.5 Antoine Jameson
Oh,
rookie card. And back in the day, I was a big fan of Antoine Jameson. It's really cool. It's crisp. It's a 98 to 99 skybox. And what's really unique about this, I was getting into this last night, Kelly, is his birthday is June 12th
it's
of this
right around the
week.
corner.
So I'm like, what could be more fitting than showing off Antoine Jameson? And with our special guest we have today on today's episode, he's from Shreveport, Louisiana. So I thought that was a good tie-in.
Nice. Well, speaking of Michael Jordan and episode 23, one of my favorite Jordan card that I have in my own PC is this one. And it's a simple card. It's not an expensive card.
Yeah, I like that one.
Yeah, that's the 1990 Fleer card, but it just that pose and that shot, and it's just when I think of Jordan, I mean, this is one of the images that come to mind from my youth of him.
You think of the tongue hanging out, just going right to the
Oh,
rack, and nobody could stop him.
dude,
Sure.
exactly. Now when I got back in the hobby 2 years ago, I had to go and get one of those like I guess iconic in my mind it's an iconic card, a card that I was like, man, I've got to get this card because it was so popular in the early 90s. And when I was in college, this guy here, the
Oh
91,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, the SP.
Yep. I've got those. Those are nice.
Dude, well, yeah, this SP card, and just it was like the hottest thing in the early 90s. And I just
Yeah.
was like, man, I've back in the hobby, I want to get that one card. And so, it's not the highest grade, but I didn't pay an arm and a leg for it either. And it's my card, and I enjoy looking at the card and reading the
Right.
back and the stats. And so definitely, and then my a Jordan card that means a lot to me.
Yeah.
Um, we were at a Dallas card show about a year ago, a little over a year ago, and this guy was handing out some packs of cards and to like little kids, and my daughter got one, and so she pulled this Jordan card. I was like, dude,
Oh yeah, dude.
so
You're going right down my memory lane here.
yeah, yeah, and look on the back, what is Mike doing?
Yeah, that's right.
He's living the good life, isn't he?
That's correct.
I might get this card graded, and throw it at a GC slab. It's affordable.
I was going to do that. I was going to do that too, Kelly. I
But
was
just
going
as
to
a
do that.
keepsake, for my daughter and me. So
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I do it just because I was big on the skybox back in the day. Like I liked those. So
Yeah, why
I
not,
got a
man?
complete set of those. Maybe I'll get them all graded.
Yeah, you might be considered a fanatical collector at that point if you get them all graded.
Correct, but if you go down a rabbit hole like that, I'm sure it's kind of fun. I bet it's great when you start
I,
getting after it.
I
So
think it's pretty challenging too. So,
yes,
anyways, trying to get those cards all graded, and then if you're trying to do a certain level of like grading, PSA is Ray from Philly had said, they got that set registry and it's very
yep,
competitive. And
yep,
so, you look at like, I don't know, let's just say like 1982 Fleer baseball. There are probably guys competing with that saying, hey, we've got the whole set PSA graded. You're looking at what's normally like a 20-cent common. Now it's like, $15 card, $18 card because they're
yeah,
competing for that registry.
yeah. And you see that on eBay too. I see cards like this, common cards selling. Like somebody will like be selling them. They got a whole bunch graded. Maybe they broke up a set,
Yeah.
a registry set, and they're upgrading. But you'll see like common cards going for like 14, $18 each. So exactly, and people buying them up. So
Yeah. We'll have to talk to some more folks about how competitive that it is in that registry because I'm really curious, like
I'd be interested to know about that too,
the
because
bragging rights and all that. Yeah.
I think about it, but I'm like, is that even something I could pull off? Is it possible? How did someone get started in it? So yeah, I agree.
Well, it's an honor and a pleasure. We have our special guest for episode 23, none other than Bryan Dennison of Cajun Cardboard. Bryan, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great, and I am flattered that it is episode number 23. No coincidence
Symbolic in many
there.
ways,
So,
man.
yeah, you're one step ahead of the game, man, with that one. Yeah, thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
Well, let's get right into it, man. Bryan, tell us in a nutshell, man, your like hobby origin story, and I mean, you've made quite a name for yourself in the hobby. So, really, I'm interested in knowing about your origin and your beginnings.
Sure, sure. It's similar to the age old adage you hear from everybody else. They collected as a kid, then they had school and girls and no money, and then they get back in and they fall in love with what they loved as a kid. So my story is similar. I'm 51 years old, just turned 51.
All right, happy
So I grew
birthday.
up collecting. Yeah, I grew up collecting 80s baseball cards, like a lot of people that are our age, and fell in love with collecting, set completion. PC Ricky Henderson, even as a
Oh yeah,
little bitty kid, as a 10-year-old, I love Ricky. He was my favorite player, the best blend of ridiculous speed and power, and Major League Baseball history, at least in my opinion. And then got out of it right at the height of the junk wax era, which, I don't know, guys. What do you think? Maybe 89, 90, 91 was kind of when people started to think, man, there seems to be a lot of these out there. And it coincided with my senior year in high school and going off to college. And, I got distracted. So I didn't touch cards until back until around 98, 99, I think is when I got back in. And when I got back in, I got back into basketball. And I was kicking myself for not getting into basketball in the 80s, obviously, because I'd be too important for you guys. I wouldn't even come on your show. I'd be so rich, I
right.
wouldn't even entertain anything,
Your
right?
private island.
My
I get
86
it.
Fleer and ride off into the sunset. But as fate would have it, I got back into basketball in the late 90s, and then did that until 2004, and then took another decade long 10, 11, 12 year break, as I had a lot of kids and big family and had zero money. I was just trying to keep up. And then around 2015, 16 is I think when I really got back into it super heavy. And well, it was a matriculation, but I got in, and then it got real heavy real quick because I fell in love with it all over again.
Well, going from baseball in the 80s to
Yeah.
98 and jumping back in with basketball, why basketball?
I'm a lifer. Yeah. So I played, obviously, since I was 3 years old, grew up in Louisville, Kentucky, which is, basketball headquarters in America. I
Oh,
know
I'm thinking of the Louisville Slugger, man.
Yeah,
Like,
well, yeah, that's true. You're right. You're
that
right.
factory, man.
Home of Louisville Slugger as well. But man, the Bluegrass State is special. It's unique. Basketball is in my blood. I was born into it. I played in college. I had cousins that played in college. I coached at a very, very high level in the Nike EYBL league. I've been in basketball since I was 3 years old, shoveling snow off the driveway. when my dad taught me how to shoot. Was in love with the Kentucky Wildcats. My dad told me stories about the ABA Kentucky Colonels, and that just kind of traveled with me when I moved down here in the early '80s to Baton Rouge, Louisiana, which is where the Cajun cardboard comes from. I'm in Baton Rouge, Louisiana now. And and like I said, man, basketball is my first passion, my first love, and so never went back to collecting baseball. I think as we get older, our attention span shrinks, and so basketball is a little quicker than baseball for me. And basketball's still not fast enough. There's still a lot of timeouts, a lot of fouls, a lot of reviews, and all that. But basketball is my love, and so when I got back into basketball, and especially in 2015-16, Giannis is actually what brought me back into the hobby. Because I discovered him very, very early. I saw some grainy films of this skinny 7-foot, or at least he looks 7-foot alien over in Greece doing things that Magic Johnson did. And I was like, I wonder if basketball cards are still a thing. And so I jumped on eBay and I saw his base prisms were a few bucks, $4, $3, $4, $5, $6, something like that. This is probably 2014, 15, somewhere in there, I'm guessing. And I just started clicking buy it now. And I was like, I'm going to buy a few hundred of these. And so I just bought. And I end up, buying probably close to 500 Giannis rookies. I wish I'd have bought the ones that mattered, but I didn't. I didn't know what National Treasures was. I didn't know what Immaculate was. I just saw Prism was the new Topps Chrome. And I was like, I'm just going to buy as many of these as I can. And went that route, and it worked out really well. I gave him my seed money. And then from there, I just kept doing it with different players until it led me to Michael Jordan. And now it's a whole different world, obviously.
So when you jump back in 2015, obviously you grew up with Jordan.
Yeah.
You were pursuing Giannis. Is there a reason, like, other than maybe were you prospecting with Giannis and that was your
straight? Yes, I was purely in it for the money. Period. End of story. I was like, I'm just going to buy a bunch of this guy's cards. I am going to grade them. And I am gonna, sit on for a few years and see if he's any good. I knew he was gonna be good. I really didn't know he was gonna be, an NBA MVP and win a title. And I didn't know that, obviously, but I knew he was gonna be very, very good because I watched him a lot, and it worked. And so I made a lot of money doing that. And all I cared about was getting into the hobby for money back then. And then I did it again with, believe it or not, it worked with Ben Simmons. I know that sounds hilarious today, but my timing was very good with Ben Simmons. It worked with De'Aaron Fox. It worked with Doncic. It worked with Mitchell, Donovan Mitchell. It worked with a bunch of different Jaylen Brown. It worked with a bunch of different NBA prospects. And then, as we got closer to 2020, 2021, the buy raw grade flip base cards didn't work. And then gradually, even the silver cards didn't really work because the entry point was so high out the gates. After 2019, 20, your price point to get into your prospect was so high and there was so much built in that was no longer a play. And that's when I decided I need to find another place I love the hobby. I want to stay in it. I want to keep doing this, but I want to find a new place to put my money. And so I started buying into Michael Jordan rookie cards, just strictly the 1986 Fleer. And I did that strictly for money as well. I stacked them. I had 50 of them. And the timing on that was fantastic as well. And then when I ended up selling those, then I was like, where is the least risky place I could possibly put my money? And I decided to look into 90s inserts and parallels of Michael Jordan, specifically cards from the 90s. And that's eventually where my path led. And I've been there for 5 years now, a full 5 years. It's my passion. I've gradually sold almost everything else relevant in my collection to become almost exclusively a Michael Jordan, mostly 90s inserts and parallels collector. And now, what started as a business endeavor, a flip game, a prospecting, investing type adventure has turned into just an absolute passion addiction. I won't sell cards for profit because I can't let go of the card. And so I'm a totally different person, here in 2025 than I was in 2015, just a completely different person. I can't let go of cards with, people screaming at me, sell that card, sell it, take the money, take the peak, whatever. No, I'm just watching.
That's unique. You went from collecting to investing, then back to collecting.
Exactly. It's exactly. And it's hilarious. It's full cycle, man. And now I'm in love with them. And, I get offers for certain cards every day. Obviously, I got a big mouth, and I've got a YouTube channel, and people know what I have, and they'll offer me, very profitable offers. And I'm like, I'm just not looking to, I got to take steps forward. I can't take steps backwards in my Michael Jordan collecting. I just can't do it, unless it's a duplicate. It's almost never for sale. Almost never.
You just line up your kids and go, every kid gets 10 of these, 10 of those, 10 of these. I mean, and then whatever's left over, maybe have fun. Pay for a couple of weddings.
I don't know about y'all. I wish I could get my kids into collecting. I have pulled them. I have, drug them to shows. I've tried to every sport possible. I cannot get my kids to find that love that I had, back in the early 80s when I was 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 years old. I just can't get them to fall in love with it. I don't know. I guess you can,
I had a breakthrough moment yesterday. I went to Walgreens, had to get some prescription for my son, and my other son was with me, and he goes, "Daddy, let's get some Pokemon." I'm like, "Nah, buddy, they just end up all over the place, but I like the idea that he wants to have a book with a 9-page. It's a good start." But then he goes, "Oh, Daddy, they got baseball cards over here." I'm like, "All right,
we're talking."
Now you piqued Daddy's interest. So we go over there, and it's 2025 Topps Heritage pack, and I was like, you know what? Yes, I'm in for that. Let's buy that. So we went through it, and I made him split it with his brother.
There you go.
He's the one who's really I think he's interested. He's turned the corner a little bit.
There you go. Hey, there's a glimmer.
He wants to go to a card show and see all the Pokemon now, and I'm like, all right, we may be starting something.
Well, I'm jealous. There's a glimmer of hope for you, but for me, I think that door's shut. So.
Well, Bryan, I was going to ask you though, based on that nature versus nurture argument, is that collecting, you think it's is it DNA down, or do you think it's your environment? Because again, you are introducing cards to your kids and stuff, and saying, hey, look, this is a great hobby, look, this is what I like to do. I mean, have you had this debate before on other episodes of your own show?
I have, and I think it is DNA. I think you nailed it. I think God puts certain genes and proclivities into each human being, and some people are very organized people. Some people need closure. You know what I'm saying? Some people, if they start putting a puzzle together, for instance, they can't stop until the puzzle's finished. And I've got that gene. I've got that set collector gene. So I'm very into set collecting as well. That's sort of the less expensive side of my PC, is putting together sets in either soccer or in basketball. And I love putting them together. And I've been that way since I was a kid. When I collected, I don't know about you guys, but when I was a kid in the 80s, I was, if my favorite team was the Oakland A's, I wanted every player on the Oakland A's from 1980s Topps, and I wanted to put the set together and say, I did it, and get to the finish line. And so I think people are born with that. They're born with a love of accumulating things and appreciating what it is that they've collected, or they're not. And I don't think there's any right or wrong way to do it. The hobby's humongous, and there's a billion pathways that you can take. And so I think there's a place for the pure flippers, the pure investors. But I think most of us, even the purest of collectors, all the take it to the grave people, I think even they would admit they want to make sure they're making a frugal financial purchase, even if they are purchasing it to have it for the next 35 years. I still think they want to buy it at the right price, so we're still looking at numbers. I think most of us are hybrid investor collectors, if we're really honest with ourselves,
All righty. Let me ask you this, because you talked about some of the high-end cards you've got, and you've openly stated, hey, I keep these at the PSA vault versus keeping them in your own house. And so I wanted to know, is there your logic, is it because of the weather down there in Louisiana, or is it why the vault?
Good question.
Your own home?
It's a good question. It's easy to answer. It's I keep everything in the Fanatics vault, so nothing in PSA.
Oh, okay, Fanatics vault. Okay.
Yeah, everything is in Fanatics. I'm an affiliate partner with Fanatics and with PSA. My YouTube channel is, but all of my meaningful cards are in the Fanatics vault, and it's funny because they got there in 2020-ish, I think, around, because my wife said, I kept coming home. I had a very big 86 Fleer basketball collection. I had all those Jordan rookies, and I had a PSA 10 complete set, which is pretty rare. I had 2 PSA 9 complete sets, and I had 3 PSA 8 complete sets. And if you guys remember, I know you've been in the hobby for a bit. If you remember back then, that was when 86 Fleer, went from 0 to 100, man. I mean, this thing it was inorganic and it was crazy. And it spiked so fast that I kept coming home. And it seemed like every other week I'd come home and tell my wife, you're not going to believe this, what this Jordan PSA 10 just sold for. And what this Johnny Moore, card is worth, or what this, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar sticker is worth. And so when she heard the numbers, she's like, you've got to get these out of our house. They were in a gun vault, a gun safe, at our house. And so I worried about theft. I really worried about humidity, because our climate down here in South Louisiana is very, very humid. And you can try to put like humidifiers in your vaults or your safe. You can try to use silicate packets. You can try to open the door every once in a while, and you can put a fan on. You can do whatever you want. But man, down here in South Louisiana, it is different. I mean, the Philippines is similar. Central America is similar from a kind of climate standpoint, but the humidity is special, and it'll warp your card inside of a PSA slab if you stick it in a gun safe. And so I had thousands of valuable cards. I was like, my wife's like, get them out. And so that's when I reached out to, back then they were called PWCC, now they're Fanatics. And I said, look, what can y'all do? I don't know how to get these cards to you. I literally looked into, getting on an airplane and flying up there with it would be a huge, multiple pieces of luggage. But they sent a white glove service. Like, they rolled out the red carpet and they said, to get your collection, we'll do it for you. And they sent armed guards to my house. They came to my house with guns and bulletproof vests, 3 dudes, 3 ex-militia guys. And, they zip tied it, and they took an inventory and they put it on a private plane, flew it up there. And, it was in my vault 3 days later. It was incredible. And I finally could breathe. I was like, oh, I could take I just kept envisioning somebody knocking on the door and saying, is this where Brian Dennison lives? Give me all your cards.
So
my wife wouldn't know what to
do. Though, Brian, that's very legit, because again, look, families want to protect our families and our homes. Do you have some personal cards at the house? I'm assuming, like in the 9-sheet binders, that aren't quote unquote highly valuable, but you can still enjoy holding cardboard, looking through those sheets.
Yeah. That's the big question, right? From the anti-vaulters or the folks that don't vault, it's like, well, I want to touch and feel my cards. And I get a chance to do that whenever I want. Like, if I wanted to pull my 3 best cards in my collection and touch them and feel them, all I got to do is click a few buttons and they're at my house in 3 days. So I did that actually at the National in Cleveland. I had, Fanatics brought my 50 best cards over there. We filmed a bunch of content for them, and I got to touch and feel them and show them off and do some videos and look at them in person. Some of them for the first time. I've got to look at them in person, and it was a blast. But at some point, I was like, you got to get this. You got to take this back. I don't feel comfortable with it all. In my house or in my possession. Right. I know that I got to always get a hold of one if I really wanted to. But that's the con of vaulting, is you can't touch it anytime you want. But the pros of having your cards on vault is that, for me, the way that I do things, it far outweighs the cons. If you guys, like on this show, if you said, hey, we want to see your 100 best Jordan cards, I could create a shareable slideshow for you in about 60 seconds with, whatever you want. You can pick the player, pick the year, pick the card, pick the value, pick the grade. You do whatever you want. You can sort it any way you want, share it all over the world in seconds from your phone. And that allows me to get in and out of cards very, very, very easily. The vault for me is indispensable. There's no way I could do what I do. I certainly couldn't do the type of content that I do on my YouTube channel on Cajun Cardboard without the vault. There's no way I could do it in hand. I just couldn't.
Well, the misses queue up then, right?
Yeah, pros and cons, man.
Yeah, I was wondering how often you wanted to see those cards. That was where I was going with my question. You said you brought them out at the National, but do you wake up like maybe 2 weeks from now and go, man, I really want to see these PSA 10s? And then did they put you on a kind of a webcam or something? Go, here you go, take a look at them.
No, I just got the 2D images, and some of them have videos, Okay. People are going to watch this and they're going to be like, you're not a real collector. You don't even have your cards in your hand. And I was like, that's fine. If that's everybody's opinion, but I don't feel the need to have the card at my disposal all the time. And even when I do get that inclination and that feeling, it's far outweighed by the comfort of knowing they're taken care of, they're insured, they're in a climate controlled place with,
Yeah.
armed guards and electric fence and all the crap that goes with that vault, which I've visited it. It's crazy. It's a crazy compound up there in Oregon. And it just sets me at ease, and I'm constantly in my vault, moving pieces around, moving this to weekly auction, moving this to buy it now. And
Yeah, acquisitions and sales, and
it's just so easy to get in and out of cards when they're sitting in the possession, of the Fanatics vault. For me, it's just really easy. If I get a private deal done with if one of you guys said, "Hey, do you have an extra, Michael Jordan,
right.
80, Soaring Stars insert PSA 9," and I look in my vault and I'm like, "Yeah, actually I do." And you're like, "I'll take it." Boom. I go in here, I click a button, create shipment, put your address in, ship it,
Gotcha.
pay the invoice with my Fanatics fees, and it's out the door with a tracking number to you the next day. It's no different than, it's actually easier than if I wanted to sell the card on eBay for me.
Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah, I was wondering what kind of fees do you have to pay for Fanatics? Is it similar to eBay if they do something like that? I'm sure. I know they have a cut, like you just mentioned.
Yeah, and it'll be it's free vault for life for cards that are $50 or more. So if you got a card that's worth $50 or more and you put in your vault, you leave it there the rest of your life. You're not paying anything.
I'm kind of like that. I'm in that stage too, where I've got a bunch of nice cards to the PC, and I kind of would rather. I can't display them. My kids would kind of get in there, and they're bringing their friends over. I don't have a place for a study to look at them. So I'm like, I just put them away in a drawer, and I'm like, I kind of go look at them, make sure they're still there, like once every couple of weeks.
Yeah, check on your babies. Yeah,
but I don't need to see them all the time. So I bet there'd be some that I would do, like Nolan Ryan rookie cards, stuff like that. Just graded stuff that I want to pass on one day.
Yeah, so it's worth a look, and it's not for everybody. And I've never tried to sell people on vaulting. It's just, it made sense for me, for sure. And a lot of people out there vault some, keep some. Just depending on what their plans are, their long-term plans are for those particular cards. Like if I'm waiting for this guy to pop off and, hit 45 home runs, then maybe you keep that card in your possession so it's easier to move at a show or whatnot. But I don't really get out to shows that much. The kind of cards that I collect do best on Fanatics weekly auctions, and so there's really no reason for me not to use it. It's just so easy to move things around and to make decisions and to share my collection, to create the content that I create. So
yeah, that's neat. I like that. That's interesting.
Yeah.
And does it come down to, are you just only PSA? Like if you get your inserts and things graded now, or do you use BGS still, or do you use SGC?
Yeah, so two-part answer to that question. So when I personally have raw cards to grade, I grade them with PSA, period. End of story. Okay. No one else. But as a 90s collector, if you guys are familiar with the 90s, a lot of the best cards in the world were put into BGS slabs many decades ago. And so I do not... Yeah, look,
Antoine Jameson rookie BGS.
I don't need, if I own that card right there, I don't feel the need to get that card, crack it, and send it to PSA. Like I'm not that guy. Okay. I'm not that PSA fanboy. So I'll be honest with you. Like I'm kind of scrolling, looking over here to the left. Maybe 8 of my 10 best cards in my entire collection are Michael Jordan cards in BGS slabs. Okay, and I do not feel any compulsion to move those over to PSA. If I see a card that I need and it's and I'm buying the card and I'm not as concerned with the grade, I'll buy BGS and feel very good about it, because right now I think PSA, especially in high grade, carries a very large premium, throughout the hobby, specifically in 90s basketball cards, but probably in whatever, segment of the hobby you're in. PSA 10s carry this premium. Even now sometimes PSA 9 is pushing BGS value, BGS 9.5, quad 9.5 value. Sometimes PSA 9 is knocking at the door, almost the same value. I'm an equal opportunity person. If it's a Jordan card I don't have that I need, I'm looking at it no matter what grade it's in.
Okay. What slab it's in. Because you value the card.
Yeah, on the big ones. Yeah. Now some of them, I am a grade snob. So I'm a self-admitted grade snob, guys. Like if it's a $400 card, I gotta have the card in a PSA 10, or a BGS 10 or a BGS 9.5. If it's a $40,000 card, give me the card. I don't care what it's in. Right. I'm trying to get that rare piece that super
impacts the price versus the
That's it.
Grading price. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, let me ask you this, Bryan. As a person that collects mainly 90s, but grew up in the 80s with cards, do you feel like in the history of basketball cards because there wasn't consistent like print production of cards every year from like the 50s on.
Yeah.
You find many collectors like collecting ultra modern and like 80s or 90s inserts or
Yeah.
early aughts, or
It's
do people kind of just specialize in their own lane in the basketball world?
They do. They really do. Or at least that's been my experience, and I've got some tentacles now. I've talked to some people in the hobby, in the basketball hobby at least. And I find that most people, if somebody collects vintage basketball, they probably also collect vintage baseball and football. If somebody collects 90s basketball, that's usually their thing. And they don't touch the vintage and they don't touch the ultra modern. Now you will see some, I kind of separated into really four segments. There's the vintage stuff. And when I say vintage, I know there's different definitions, but I say 79 and before. I don't know about you guys, but like for me, as a 51-year-old, if it's 1979, I consider that vintage. If it's 80, if it's 80 to 89, I consider it 80s. And if it's, 90 to 99, I consider it 90s. Yeah. And then I separate, 2000 to 2000 around 17 as modern, and then 2018 and beyond as ultra modern, because that's when Panini said, we're going to print the hell out of this. And so I find that a lot of folks that collect 90s also collect that 2000 to kind of 2012 range. And they sometimes try to group those together. Yeah. Depending, if they're a PC guy, like if they collect a specific player, well, obviously, if you collect, I don't know, Tracy McGrady, you're not going to have a lot of opportunities to collect Tracy McGrady in 2017. There's only so many Tracy McGrady cards, right? So at some point it cuts off. But Michael Jordan collectors specifically, there's a lot of folks out there that collect, in the 90s, they collect the inserts and parallels that I love. But in the 2000s, then they transition over to the exquisite, into the on-card autograph stuff and the patch autos and the exquisite collection stuff. Which I have not dipped my toes into yet. I don't know about you guys, but some of the price tags on that stuff is pretty steep. I mean, 90s is expensive, but the exquisite is really something. It's beautiful. I love it, and I want to try it one day. But that would be a big undertaking.
Yeah. You got any other quick questions, or what do you?
No, think? I just wanted to say, like the card I'm after, which I'm sure you probably have quite a few of them. It's like I saw this. I keep seeing cards like that are inserts or older cards from the early 90s when I did the exact schedule you did. Collected as a kid up to about 89 when I graduated high school.
Yeah.
Didn't get back into it until like 99, 2000, 2001, and then took about the next 20 years off.
Yeah.
so I've got 99. I got 99 Skybox basketball. I've got all these, I had to fill in some of the rookies as I went along, but I came across this 93 Topps Michael Jordan, the 1984 Archives card.
Yeah, you'll love that's a great card.
Oh, dude, that's an awesome.
Looks like
card.
84 baseball. There's a gold parallel.
Okay.
There's a gold. There's the base, and I've got a duplicate PSA 10. If you want the duplicate PSA 10, I got it. We can get a deal done after. Okay. But there's also a gold parallel, which is much more rare, much tougher pack odds.
Oh wow,
valuable as well. So yeah, that's a cool card because that was my. I mean, dude, 84 baseball. Do you know how many packs of 84?
Zone. That was
we opened the hell out of those things looking for Mattingly, man. Mattingly's second year. Darryl Strawberry, all those guys.
That's exactly right. And getting a hold of a Topps traded, forget about it.
Forget about it. Doesn't exist.
You're never going to find it.
Not for us. Yeah, not for kids.
Not for the common kid.
That's right.
Yeah. That's cool. Yeah, that got me excited though. I just want to mention that. I was like, man, look at this card. This is great.
Yeah. So, yep.
Still
let me throw this out to you, man, as we're kind of winding down. And I know that we have a complete episode separate on 90s inserts, but just a quick, like if you were to intro 90s inserts, is there for like brand new collector, folks that are not familiar with your channel, the hobby, is there like a starting point that you would recommend for like our viewers? Say, hey, this is where I'd go with 90s inserts.
Yeah, and it's really funny that you asked that because, remember we talked about when I went from collecting just 86 Fleer Jordan stuff, right? I wanted to get into 90s inserts and parallels. I looked everywhere for a Bible. I looked everywhere for a guideline, for a rule, for a person, for a guru, for somebody to show me, what do I do? How do I figure out? I don't know what is an insert? What is a parallel? Which ones should I want? Which ones don't I want? What are pack odds? All the different stuff like that. And there was nothing there. And I felt like that was a huge barrier to entry. I felt like that was a barricade that was keeping a lot of would be 90s collectors from getting into the 90s because it was an overwhelming amount of information and nowhere to go to get answers. And so I created my own pathway into the 90s, and it's called the Michael Jordan Hierarchy. It's a project that I did with a couple of the other biggest Jordan collectors in the world. And we've got a 3 by 2 foot glossy poster with 348 of the best Michael Jordan cards in the world on the front of the poster. And on the back, we've got the pack odds and the description and the label for every single one of those cards. And it's a very, very popular artifact amongst 90s collectors, not just Jordan, because so many of these Jordan cards, they also have them for Kobe or for Shaq or for Rodman or Tracy McGrady or fill in the blank, all those different guys, Grant Hills and the Olajuwons.
Oh, yeah.
So a lot of people have kind of gravitated into that hierarchy, and we did over 30 videos on it. We talked about every single card that was included. We showed every single card that was included. It was my brainchild, but I had a lot of help from a lot of absolutely incredible Michael Jordan basketball card collectors. Nat Turner came on the channel and talked about it. Some of the other bigger collectors, Michael Jordan collectors in the world, have been on the channel and talked about it. I did it because I didn't want to tell people what to collect. Okay. I'm not saying go collect these 348 cards. I just wanted to give people a buffet, and it's a visual buffet. And you can look at, when you walk through a line at Piccadilly or a cafeteria, you're like, well, the kids always choose the blue Jello, but like you're walking through the line, you're like, give me this, give me that. I like the look of this. I like the look of that. That's what this project did. And it lets you look and see, what do I like the look of first? Okay, now flip it over. Let me go find out what it's called. And then let me go do my research. How can I get into that card? Is it just too expensive? Can I find it? Is it even something I ever going to see? And so I wanted to start with the eye appeal, because I think that's the most important for collectors. They want to find a card they like the look of, and then follow the thread and figure out, is it a card that I want to put in my collection?
Yeah. Or the entire insert set, or whatever years and so forth, right?
Yeah. It's the hierarchy project is very popular amongst, and I think it's even fueled the fire for set collectors, because I think 90s basketball insert sets are becoming more and more popular, because we're seeing, not the big 3, not the Kobe, Jordan, and Shaq, right? Those are always going to sell for crazy money. But you're seeing Stephon Marbury sell for thousands of dollars. Well, it's not being sold to a Stephon Marbury collector, I assure you. It's being sold to a set collector who's got to finish that dang set. And there's only one way to get it. You got to get the Kerry Kittles. You got to get the Stephon Marbury. You got to get the, Mark Price, the Olajuwon, the Barkley, the whatever. You got to get those cards. And set collecting is alive and well. It's thriving. I know people think it's old baseball vintage people are the only people that collect sets. That's not true. I think it's alive and well in the hobby. So
if I still got a couple of Richard Hamilton rookies, I should hold on to them. Someone wants them someday.
Yeah, you probably get rid of those. I don't think there's a lot of upside to Richard. Hey, I think Steph Curry did what Richard Hamilton did, only a little bit better.
You know what? I was gonna take a Finis Dembo card and just send it in to get graded, just so I could have it and I could look at it, just from remembering March Madness days.
That's right. That's Wyoming. Pride of Wyoming, Finis Dembo.
That's right. I recall. That's correct, Wyoming. Yeah, that's it. But you could go down a lot of different avenues. I mean, when you mentioned that, the hierarchy, people can just see the sets, the inserts, they could go their own path from there.
Yeah. So, I mean, at the very top, there's some very expensive cards, right? There's 1% of 1% of the hobby is going to have those cards at the top of that hierarchy, but anybody can collect Michael Jordan cards. And that's a kind of a notion that I wanted to dispel when I did this hierarchy is, not every card is $10,000. Like if I want to collect Michael Jordan cards, I could put a heck of a collection together. Raw, PSA 8, BGS 8.5.
Just depends on your budget and where you want to go.
Yeah, you choose your path. It's like choose your own adventure.
Adventure books.
Yeah, choose your own adventure, man. You turn the page to what do you want to collect? Only Fleer cards? Do you want to collect only Skybox cards? How about you collect only serial numbered cards, or maybe everything's PSA 7, and you want to do it on a budget, or maybe you only want to collect North Carolina Michael Jordan. There's a million ways you can cut it up and still collect Michael Jordan, which is the most expensive player certainly in basketball cards. But there's a way that you can collect him, except maybe for Victor Wembanyama, but you can collect him on a budget if you choose to. You can absolutely do it and have a blast doing it and be just as much a part of the community as the tip top of the Michael Jordan collectors in the world. You could still be right in the middle of that and get everything out of it on YouTube, on Instagram, and you can still have just as much fun spending hundreds instead of tens of thousands.
Well, as we're wrapping up, Bryan, if you don't mind, just kind of give our viewers a shout out, like where they can find you and good stuff. And again, thank you for being a part of this episode. It means the world to Patrick and me.
Yeah, of course. And I'm happy to come on whenever y'all want. Just, I can talk about 80s baseball forever, but if y'all start grilling me on that modern baseball, we're going to have problems. I'm going to look real stupid. I'm Cajun Cardboard on YouTube. You can't miss it. Just search Cajun Cardboard on YouTube. I'm also on Instagram as Cajun_Cardboard. And that's sort of my brand and my content. And I'm a, collector, investor, dealer, content creator, and now a guest on the Blitz Weekly. So
Well, Bryan, I was going to ask in closing then, I discovered you and your channel via Apple and their podcasts.
Oh, really?
Are those early episodes? Are those also
very
on
early
YouTube on your channel? Because that's how I learned about you, man. I'm like, this guy's hilarious and he's awesome. And the insight, and I'm like, I got to meet and talk.
Yeah, it was really hard for this old dog to learn new tricks. And so at one point when I first started the channel 4 years ago, I was trying to, cross-publish on Spotify and Apple and YouTube. And now it's gotten to the point where so much of what I do, guys, is visual, showing cards, showing pictures, showing auction results and graphs and pricing and Fanatics weekly auction recaps. It's so visually oriented that I've just decided, you know what, I'm just going to stick to YouTube. I can get the content out quicker. And I mean, I'm doing over 365 videos a year. So I don't think anybody's putting out the volume I am. And so if I wanted to do 365 videos on all of those platforms, I'd have to take a few extra steps, but those few extra steps would add up, and I just don't have a lot of time. I like to try to get everything done before my workday starts because I actually do have a full-time job. And so I just got to pick and choose. And YouTube I'm familiar with. And like I said, my brain, I'm too old to learn a new deal. And I mean, I know everybody's always like, why aren't you on Spotify? I'm like, I don't know. I need to hire some young smart guy to show me how to do it. Yeah, that's what I needed.
Don't you have a kid that can do that for you?
I have a smart kid, but none of them like cards. And like I've said, I've tried to hire these dang kids and they won't do it, whatever.
Well, thank you, Bryan. And again, we'll certainly do this again. I appreciate you stopping by, and we'll definitely connect next time you're in the Metroplex or out east in North Carolina, and certainly virtually.
Yeah, of course. I'm always at y'all's service. If you ever want me back, just let me know. And you've got my cell. Reach out anytime. Anything having to do with the Jordan world, I'll be happy to chat.
That'll work.
Okay. Great. And we got a deal done on that archives, Jordan. So all you got to do is message me.
Yeah, you know what? I'm going to start looking into that because
there you go.
That's a cool card.
Check it out.
With a little Stump Patrick here.
All right.
So Patrick, this is a tough one, man, and it's really gonna make you think. So Stump Patrick this week. Which program has won the most women's College World Series title? They have 12 of them. All right. Now, when I think women's College World Series, I'm talking softball.
Correct.
Okay, so I'm going to give you 4 choices.
Okay.
All right, you ready?
Yep.
All right. So which program won the most women's College World Series titles with 12? Is it A, is it Texas? Is it B, Oklahoma? Is it C, Florida? Or is it D, UCLA?
This is a very tough one.
Yes. If you're not following women's College World Series, the softball thing, then I'm sure you're just probably throwing darts at the wall. So,
well, let me tell you. So my mind is thinking through the last few years of the success of the Oklahoma Sooners program. I don't think they match two of the other teams that you mentioned, and my gut wants me to go with the writing on your shirt and say Longhorns, but I'm going to go with UCLA. I'm going to go with D.
Well, if you chose D, like 18.3% of America, you are correct.
Yes. All right. Deductive reasoning, friend.
Texas has won. They won their first one ever this past Friday night over Tech.
Well, it's okay. So I was confused. They've been dominant though in that sport.
They've been there. They had 8 previous unsuccessful attempts. Texas finally broke through, got one. So that was Friday,
Okay.
their first College Women's World Series title. Oklahoma has 4 in a row, but I'm sure they have some more in their past. They've got a very storied program.
Yeah, they're impressive. I think they went like 68-0 a couple of years, like over 2 seasons, a couple of years ago or something like that. They lost their first game like last year, I think.
They've been a powerhouse. Oklahoma has, and Florida's always been up there, and I think they've got a couple of titles.
Okay.
UCLA, man, your deductive logic, your reasoning came out on top with 12.
Yeah, I just remember that.
Patrick.
I remember them being pretty dominant, like 90s, 2000s. Like you'd always hear UCLA this, UCLA that, when women's softball really got popular and was on ESPN. So I went with an old memory.
You pulled the rabbit out of the hat, Patrick. I respect that, man. That's
right.
Because I would have been stumped, probably much more so than you. So good job.
I give you credit for a good question. That was a tricky one. I like that. Keep those coming.
Well, definitely, y'all. We're going to wrap things up here and say, thank you for being a subscriber. Thank you for the views. Again, tell your friends. Join us on Facebook at CardBlitz, all one word, or join us on Instagram under CardBlitz Show. Drop a line in the comments. Send us an email, info@blitzweekly.com. And we'll see you next time for episode 24. But episode 23 has been a good one. Patrick, you got anything?
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, let's go. You guys let's pay attention to the NBA and NHL playoffs. It's a good time of the year.
Yep. Keep growing the show. We'll catch y'all next time.